Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the first part of B.B. Price's seventh chapter on philosophy and the church. The full title of this chapter is The Dictates of Philosophy in the Late Medieval Church. I'm just going to talk about the very first part in the present video and leave the other parts for future videos. So, Scholasticism. Scholasticism had exposed the Achilles heel of Christian thought. By the 13th century, scholars were faced with two very different but comprehensive views of man and the world, Aristotelian and Christian. They were unable to totally harmonize either the principles or the content of these two systems of thought. In Aristotelianism, there was no concept of Christ, no church, no overriding aspiration to a life outside the material world. Knowledge lay within one's rational reach, and there was no institution or deity responsible for guiding the human soul to knowledge. By contrast, in Christianity, belief was superior to knowledge. The supreme object of belief was the Trinity, and the institutionalized church provided continuity and purpose. Although most scholastics managed to walk a middle path between these two systems, they must have been aware of the newly developing tensions and inconsistencies between them, and faced ecclesiastical censure if they veered too closely to strict Aristotelianism. Nevertheless, the Church's claim to authority became open to intellectual dispute. The Dictates of Philosophy. Aristotle's available works were grouped together into a distinct corpus in the 13th century. Over 50 works attributed to him were then in circulation, although the authenticity of a few works was questioned. Aristotle's works were read in conjunction with Platonic, Neoplatonic, and even Muslim works. Aristotle's works had become firmly part of the university curriculum and taught with the established system of commentary, questioning, and summary. Works under study were controlled, and prohibitions on certain books were enforced. But during the 13th century, there was an increasing number of books circulating outside of the universities, spreading philosophical thought to a wider audience. Again, secular intellectuals such as Dante were also circulating their own ideas in the vernacular. The successive bannings of specific texts and teachings by the authorities in 1210, 1231, and 1270, and the condemnation in 1277, sought to eliminate ideas unacceptable to Christian orthodoxy. This placed a stigma on Aristotle, the most rational of the philosophers, but it also shattered the idea of a great synthesis between theology and philosophy. There was a progressive separation of faith and reason, according to Maurer, increasing appeals to God's absolute power, according to Grant, and an undue strengthening of conservative theologians, according to Knowles. As a result, new philosophical premises emerged in late medieval scholasticism, even though the condemnations of 1277 were later annulled in 1325. First, affirmation of the limitless power of God, a rejection of Aristotelian ideas on determinism. Second, stress on the fallibility of the senses, questioning the soundness of induction from sense observation. But did that mean that any subjective perception might be based on reality? Third, experimentation, seen by some as the best way of ensuring that one wasn't tricked by one's senses. Whilst it might not be possible to establish the absolute truth of observations of natural science, repeated and unfalsified observations indicated that they were sound. Experimental repetition replaced authority, for some, as the basis for demonstrating the reliability of knowledge. Fourth, increasing serious disagreement between scholars, so that separate schools of thought developed, notably the school of Latin Averroists influenced by the Muslim philosopher Ibn Rushd, and secondly those epistemological skeptics who followed either the realist John Duns Scotus or the nominalist William of Ockham, who disagreed about the import of Aristotle. Other factors were involved, but this intellectual world was clearly different from that of the 13th century of Albertus Magnus, Thomas Aquinas, and Siger of Brabant. So that's a very short video. Many thanks for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons, Sina Farzel, David Langnes, Anthony Lee, Ian Palin, Johannes Rasenbaum, Steve Scholl, Ismail Valesco, Tobias Sweater, Tricia Williams, Jonah Winters, and Gloria Yazdani. You're very welcome to support my channel if you want to. Please do like, comment, and share on the videos if you will. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos, and I'll give links to my Patreon and PayPal links below. The subject for next week is the Via Moderna. Have a good day.